Week 6 is one hell of a slate. We're going to break down as many of these really good games as we can today. Obviously, we're going to have a few more tomorrow in the bonus episode over on the Patreon. But for today, we have 4 excellent matchups. We got Seahawks, Jags, we got 49ers, Buccaneers, we got Lions, Chiefs, and we got Bears, Commanders, the rematch after the game that shall not be referenced again for the rest of the show for EJ's own mental health. How you doing, EJ, by the way?
I'm great because we don't have to talk about the game that shall not be named, and instead we get Bears Commanders 2 Electric Boogaloo. I'm not sure. It's going to be a lot of fun, and both of these teams are in much different spots, but the rest of the slate, don't sleep on the other 3 games. These are going to be good ones.
We also have a new tool that just came out officially today that we used to make this show that you're going to see pop up frequently, and it's insane, to say the least. You'll get more details on that as the show goes on. But for now, Neil, roll the intro. Welcome to the Bootleg Football Podcast. I'm Brett Coleman. That's EJ Snyder. Again, 4 excellent games to get to today. We're going to be, as usual, building our underdog pick'em entry game by game as we go. And again, as usual, because we're doing this show on Tuesday, we don't actually have any real numbers, so we're just going to throw those up on screen as we go. But you'll see the pick'em reflected in the points that we talk about in all of these matchups, and I'm sure the players and the numbers that we select are going to make sense because there's a bunch of good on good this weekend as far as offenses versus defense. There's also, quite frankly, some bad on bad as well. So a lot of unstoppable forces meeting, a lot of movable objects meeting, but that's what makes these games so close. Shall we start with Seahawks Jags each?
We shall, and the aforementioned good on good will lead off with that. Seattle has the second best rushing defense in the league, allowing only 3.3 yards per attempt. Jaguars have the 7th best rushing attack in the NFL, generating 4.9 yards per attempt. This is a heavyweight clash in the run game. So how do we dive in and figure out who might win that category? And the Jaguars have a really interesting early down split for runs because they have been so effective, I think. 47.6% of early down run frequency this season, and they've been really, really effective. The yards per carry, 5.18 for, again, early down runs, first and second down. That is 5th in the NFL. EPA per rush on those runs, also 5th in the NFL. And the success rate is 8th in the NFL. So that is nearly 5 percentage points higher than the league average of 39%. So the Jags are getting it done on the ground on downs 1 and 2, and that is giving them very favorable looks on third down, which is a good thing when you have a quarterback playing like Trevor. And I'm just saying that's high variance. We've seen some very good stuff, but we've also seen some inability to do some of the basics for quarterbacking through the first 5 weeks with any consistency. So having that bedrock of the run game for the Jags is really important. And I kind of feel like it's Liam Cohen saying, this is the rock. Upon this, I will build my church. I did it in my last stop. I'm going to do it in this stop, and I will show you. BTJ and the passing game struggles be damned. We'll figure that out. We're getting the run game right. And so far, they have gotten it as right as anybody in the league. On the flip side, Mike McDonald and his troops are at absolute wall. Early down percentage in terms of stops, they are elite. They are allowing just 3.29 yards per carry on those first and second down carries, which is second in the NFL behind only Cleveland, which is allowing sub 3, which is kind of nuts, 2.96. That's significantly better than the league average against those runs, which is 4.37. So both of those teams, Cleveland and Seattle, are absolutely shutting down the early down runs and then saying, do whatever else it is you do, because that's not going to work. And it's going to be really interesting with Cohen scheming to see if he can get around some of that and get some early down success to take pressure off that offense. Because if he doesn't, they're going to have to put the ball back in Trevor's hands. They've had some injuries. Brenton Strange just went on IR.
I didn't see he went on IR.
Yeah, I don't know if it's designated to return or not, but that is a subtext to this game. Again, layers on layers to this game. But the big sort of headline matchup is, can the Jaguars run on the Seahawks? Because Jaguars have run on pretty much everybody, and Seahawks have stopped pretty much everybody. We'll see who wins that matchup.
You know, you mentioned that the run game is important because it feels like on paper you don't want to just put everything onto Trevor, right? Because there has been some ball placement issues. There's been some questionable decision making. And again, it's not every drive. It's not even every game. It's just, I've talked about it throughout this season. I felt like the Jags passing game should have been a lot better than it was on paper. If you're looking at the weapons, if you're looking at the quarterback, if you're looking at the play caller, like they should have been more consistent. And my frustration with this team was like, if they could actually just play a clean game, we would probably see what they're actually capable of. And so my worry was like, if the run game goes away, can Trevor and these receivers play a clean game? Can they stop dropping the ball? Can BTJ work over the middle? Can Trevor make good decisions and put the ball exactly where he wants it to be? And we saw that happen against Kansas City, right? That was the first game, certainly this season, but also maybe the first game I can remember in a long time where there was one drop or less by these Jags receivers. They only had one. That's good by NFL standards, right? To just drop the ball once. No turnover-worthy plays. No off-target incompletions, right? So that was the cleanest this passing game has played this year, easily, and probably in the last couple of years when Trevor's been healthy. That is really encouraging. And even though, you know, Chiefs fans can say like, well, yeah, but they only won because we made a lot of mistakes, right? Like a pick six on the goal line, and Chris Jones just like stopped moving during Trevor's last touchdown. It's like he probably could have stopped him short. There was the penalties, there's the special teams mistakes, which we'll get into when we talk about the Chiefs later. Like, yeah, the Chiefs just compounded all of their issues over and over and over again, and that quote unquote allowed the Jags to win. But I would say previous Jags teams, or maybe even previous versions of this Jags team, would have made their own mistakes too and allowed KC to get away with it, right? And KC would have won that game because of how not clean the Jags passing game has been leading up to this point. You finally see what they're capable of when they just play football to their capability and they don't make those really dumb, crucial mistakes. Like they actually won a primetime game against the boogeyman, right? Like, I saw a stat: the Jags hadn't beaten Kansas City since like 2009.
Yep.
Trevor was 10. That's insane. So again, I think that game, like again, not everything is great in Jacksonville right now, but that game showed what they're capable of when they stop shooting themselves in the foot, and what they're capable of is being a really darn good team that is. Oddly enough, it's them and Indy that are racing for the division crown and potentially racing for a bye week in the AFC with how they're both playing right now.
Yeah, and again, the defense has been really good. We'll talk about them in just a second. The run game, we opened up with that, but the pass game has been up and down, and especially in big moments. And in that last drive, it wasn't just KC falling, it was Jacksonville rising. Like Trevor made 3 really good throws on that drive. And
oh my God, the one to BTJ was crazy.
Like really good throws. And we have not seen that. And so yes, stopping shooting yourself in the foot, but also playing big in big moments. And like you said, Jacksonville, far from perfect. I mean, just look at Trevor's last touchdown. Like, that's Keystone Cops on the football field. Like, he's incredibly lucky he got away with it. But there were so many other indicators. You talked about no off-target incompletions. You talked about, not dropping the ball. The one drop was pretty egregious, but one drop is one drop. It didn't derail them. And they rose at the end, made a couple of throws right in a row, down to down, that they needed, got chunk plays, moved them down the field against a very good team that they haven't beaten in a long time. That's sort of 2 different things. There's still things to improve upon, but the defense is playing great. They are wildly opportunistic with turnovers. They're second in the league right now at plus 1.6 per game. Seattle's just average in that category, right in the middle at about negative 0.2 per game, so pretty much even. Seattle's defense also playing pretty darn well. We talked about the run stopping, but they have almost twice as many sacks as Jacksonville does at this point in the season. So we've got good on good, but Jacksonville has to come in with kind of a shot in the arm going, look, if we play a reasonably clean game, and Trevor said it in his post-game interview last night, like it's not like we played perfect. It's not even like we played great, but we played better than we have, and we did get the W. And that does matter in those locker rooms. And when they kind of sit around and, look at each other in the locker room and go, well, the defense has been playing great all year and have really helping us out when we haven't played great. The run game is the best in the NFL. Man, if we can just do what we did against the Chiefs, but a little bit more, I'm not sure there's a ton of teams out there this year that can stop us down the road.
That Brenton strain injury, though, is definitely going to hurt the run game, because if there's one common thread you see in all the great run games in the NFL, it's that they have tight ends that can block. The Jags honestly have two. Well, now they have one, but one of their tight ends that could block is also a pretty darn effective receiver as well. So the Strange injury, I hadn't seen that they IR'd him before recording this, but that's massive. That's the equivalent to me of Trayvon Walker getting dinged. If you don't have Trayvon Walker on the field, it's a different defense. If you don't have Brenton Strange on the field, it's a different offense for a lot of different reasons that maybe they don't show up in the box score, but you definitely feel it on film. He is a really, really, really good young tight end. I want to focus on that defense the Jags defense that you brought up, and the opportunisticness. No, opportunism. That sounds right. I'm struggling with the English language today, folks.
You're 1 for 2. It's got to be in there somewhere.
1 for 2. But their ability to shut down the middle of the field, particularly at an intermediate depth between 10 and 22 yards, that kind of general hook zone area, that has been so crucial for them as a pass defense, because that is where the best quarterbacks work, right? They work that intermediate middle, they thread needles, they get explosives, they get yards after the catch. And if you're looking at passer rating allowed, and even just the stat line of quarterbacks that attempt passes in that, and again, it's a big swath of the field, right? In between the numbers, 10 to 22 yards. That's a huge area of field here. So far this year, quarterbacks targeting that area against Jacksonville, they are 22 of 48, 45% completions, 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions, passer rating of 39.9. The average passer rating allowed in the NFL in that area of the field is 87.7. That contrasts with Sam Darnold, who, when we talked about the Seahawks offense last week, and we said that going into this past game, he was a perfect 12 of 12 on true dropback passes targeting that area of the field. Overall, his passer rating when targeting that area of the field is 134, specifically 134.3 actually. 4 touchdowns, only 1 pick, 10.1 yards per attempt. This is a clash between one of the quarterbacks that is working the intermediate middle better than anybody else, at least almost anybody else, versus the defense that's stopping quarterbacks from working that area of the field better than anybody else. I don't think it's crazy to say that particular matchup, Sam Darnold against Devin Lloyd, can he fit the ball in and around Devin Lloyd without it getting picked off? That's kind of the key to the entire Seahawks offense against Jags defense matchup, because he has been a nightmare for quarterbacks this year. And I don't want to pick who I think is going to win that matchup, because you never really know, but I can tell you without a doubt that matchup in particular is really, really important. If Devin Lloyd gets Sam Darnold in this game like he has most of the quarterbacks he's played this year, Jags probably win. If Sam Darnold can effectively thread those needles without turning the ball over, they probably win. Because again, the Jags have kind of built their defense on that pillar of Devin Lloyd taking the ball away. That really is the entire game to me, at least on that side of the ball.
Well, rabbit hole number 1, perfect segue. This is my mea culpa for A.J. Barner. I was too low on A.J. Barner because he wasn't really a receiving threat, and he didn't even show me those flashes in college. He was a good blocker, but he's a good blocker, he'll work it out. That doesn't always happen. And I saw a fellow analyst jump on Twitter today and say, this is a trend. I think you just pick tight ends that can block and they'll figure it out in the passing game. And I was like, wouldn't it be nice if that was actually true? Now, we see two of them this year, Jackson Hawes and Barner, who is ascending this year, wasn't picked this year, but who are really contributing in the passing game in a way that they didn't in college. And Barner has just continued. He did show flashes of that as a rookie, and it's like, oh, that's a nice bonus. He has continued to get better as a blocker, to be forceful. We talk about Brenton Strange on the other side. I know Seahawks fans would raise their hands and be like, hey, we have the better tight end here. And they would be right. A.J. Barner is absolutely becoming one of the best young tight ends that nobody's talking about in the NFL. And I believe the Seahawks are going to have to use him in concert with their receivers, whether it's Kupp or JSN, to sort of high-low Devin Lloyd and put him in conflict. They're going to have to make him choose. And then Darnold's basically going to treat that like an RPO, but it's just going to be a throw PO. And he's going to be like, whichever way you go, I'm going to pick the guy you don't take. And if he makes the right decisions, that is Darnold, I could see that working. But Kubiak is definitely going to try and put Devin Lloyd in conflict with A.J. Barner underneath and a receiver over the top and go, all right, pick one. You can't be right all the time. But again, if Darnold chooses incorrectly or one of those guys bats a ball up, I would hold my breath if I was the Seahawks, because those are just finding Devin Lloyd this year in a way that they just do with certain players in certain years. It's taken Devin Lloyd 4 years. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option, and he is just ascending. I saw somebody say that he just decided to turn into Brian Urlacher because they didn't pick up his option. And I was like, well, in the passing game, yeah, kind of.
I was really curious. So I was typing in a query while you were talking about A.J. Barner in particular in that area of the field. 16.3 yards per reception when Darnold targets Barner in the intermediate middle, which, by the way, if you're wondering how I found that so quickly, a new tool just released today, the day we're recording this show. EJ and I have been using it for a couple of weeks to do show prep. It's called Sumer Brain, and it's absolutely nuts. It's an LLM that uses a gigantic football database that Sumer runs, and basically any question you can think of, it can answer in seconds, and it has saved me and EJ, I'm not even kidding, dozens of hours in show prep so far, because on the fly, I can ask it, again, what are Sam Darnold's numbers in this area of the field? How do the Jags do when defending that area? What are the time codes of key plays, whether it's completions allowed, forced incompletions, interceptions, and then I ask it to spit it out in a CSV format so I can then open it up in Excel and then chart my notes as I watch the tape. Like, this tool is crazy, EJ. So again, we're going to have a link down below for you guys to try it. It's called Sumer Brain. It's in beta right now. It literally just entered beta today. And we'll throw the link on the screen as well. You guys have to go try this. Ask it whatever question you want. I mean, I have tried to break this thing with the most degenerate prompts I can think of. Like, when we were talking about Drake May and like passer rating against post-snap coverage rotations, like middle field open and middle field close, that's how I got that stat in 30 seconds, by the way. Yep. Like, this thing is crazy.
Yeah, we couldn't be more excited to announce a partnership with Sumer Sports, and this is the best way to do it. It's not even close to the end. Like, this is the very beginning of some of the greatest tools that they're developing. And if you don't know who Sumer Sports is, it is a football data and analytics company that is committed to nothing short of changing the game by leveling the playing field and giving both players and analysts greater access. And this is a perfect example of their abilities to do that, because it is a large language model database created by football scientists and made for sickos everywhere, which is all of you. Like, if you're listening to this podcast, you definitely qualify. And yeah, we've earned an early reputation in the last couple of weeks as the guys that break stuff. And that's what they want you to do. That's why it's an open beta. They want you to ask questions. If you don't like the results you get, give it a thumbs down. Their team will take a look at it and see why. But they have been working on this for a long time. They could have released it months ago. They wanted 3 to 4 points greater accuracy, so they held it. And it is to the point now where it is indispensable. I've been using it for 2 weeks, And I can't imagine going back to not using it. It's that impactful in the kind of work we do. And it's going to create, it already is creating better content for all of you because I can ask it more questions more quickly. I might have been able to get one or two of these kind of questions in a previous show because I just didn't have time to take all the resources I have and cross-reference them and add them up and subtract them from last year. That all takes a ton of time. This does it for me very, very quickly. And then I can ask a follow-up question and another one and another one. And I can do that in 10 minutes and be 4 or 5 sort of iterations along, maybe find a brand new point that I didn't even know I was looking for, then dig in on that. And that's what ends up in the show, is that kind of distilled down, this is why numbers matter. It's not just more numbers, it's better numbers and numbers that would have taken us hours and hours and hours in the past. So more to come from Sumer with us over the course of this season. We couldn't be more excited about this product and all the other ones they have coming as well. But go try it, give it a look, see if it doesn't blow your brain within 30 minutes. I kind of guarantee it will.
And it's free right now, by the way, because it's in beta. You don't even have to pay for it. Like, just go fuck around with it. See what you can do. Like, honestly, they told me that our audience is perfect for this because they want people to break it because it's in beta. So if anybody can come up with the most degen prompts you can think of, it would be you guys. I believe in you. Again, when it comes to the pick'em for this game, I'm going to throw that on screen now because I'm not 100% sure who it's going to be. If I can find an AJ Barner number, I absolutely will use it.
I bet it's going to be an AJ Barner number after all that buildup, but could be a Darnold number, could be a Devin Lloyd number. You never know, but we will pick the one we think reflects what we're seeing so far, in the model and in our predictions, and try and match that up.
Next game on the docket. I don't know if you saw the Next Gen Stats passing map for that Thursday night Rams game, EJ. It was average depth of target of like 3.7 yards. It was just a whole bunch of extended handoffs, which I don't blame them for doing that, by the way. Like, the Rams were just giving it to him, and they couldn't keep Mac upright long enough to do a traditional drop back pass game anyway. So they did what they had to, and it worked, and they won the game. But I did think it was hilarious that his passing map was just all these dots within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Extenuating circumstances, all credit to Mac Jones, and that is not something you're going to hear me say all that often. He got the living hell beat out of him in that game. He came into that game banged up, and he got hit play after play, knocked down. The Rams were making a point of it. They were pushing the envelope. I'm not saying it was dirty, it was legal, but there was an emphasis, especially within that defensive line room, put him on the ground, see if we can get him to quit. And they couldn't do it. They knocked him out a couple of times, and, they were warming up the backup, but here he came, limping, trotting back out there, and he was still throwing dimes. Gutsy performance by Mac Jones.
I also want to set the record straight a little bit about this 49ers offense, because there's been this narrative of like, oh, CMC's kind of keeping them together by himself. This run game is not very good. Right? They're 28th in rushing EPA per play. They're 31st in yards per carry. They're 24th in yards before contact per attempt. They're 32nd in yards after contact per attempt. They're 19th in missed tackles forced. Like, CMC's doing what he can. This is not a good run game, EJ.
Let me tell you what CMC is doing, because you are correct. And everybody's saying CMC is great and he's holding them together, and that means the run game is good. And I'm here to tell you half of that statement is abjectly false. The run game is not good. CMC is great, and he is holding them together. And I'm going to posit to you that CMC is not a running back. CMC is a receiver. Here's my evidence for that case. He has more receiving yards than rushing yards this year, 387 to 282. That's a sort of base high-level stat. No worry, you can find that anywhere. He is the second most productive receiver in the NFL in terms of catches, period. Any position. Only, think about this. Of all the receivers drafted to play receiver, one has more catches than CMC, Puka. So that means CMC has more catches than Amon-Ra St. Brown, more than JSN, more than every receiver who you hear us sing the praises of. CMC has more catches than them. Just straight up more catches than them. He's 14th in the league in yards per route run. Yes, EJ's favorite stat. Among all wide receivers and running backs. Like everybody that catches passes, he's 14th in the league in yards per route run. The only running back that's ahead of him is Bijan, and Bijan has half as many catches as CMC. Like CMC is floating this offense, no doubt. Again, 387 just receiving yards. He is a receiver. Forget whether or not he's running the ball, because he's not running the ball all that well. Or this offense, I should say, is not running the ball all that well. But as
he's
a receiver,
doing what he can. It's just everybody in front of him that's like, here, Christian, try not to die.
this is a big deal. And this becomes a huge deal for Tampa Bay, because they have to slow him down in the passing game, not as a runner. Because if they don't, he's going to eat their lunch. And the problem is Tampa Bay has been really poor in matching up with running backs, specifically in the passing game. Running backs have caught 80.8% of the passes thrown their way against Tampa. That's 21 of 26. They've allowed 257 receiving yards to running backs, which is the third most in the NFL. And they are particularly vulnerable to big plays from running backs in the passing game. If that sounds like a nightmare matchup for CMC, yeah, you heard that right. They're allowing 12.2 yards per reception. League average is 7.2 to running backs. 12 yards after the catch per reception. League average is 7.8. So Tampa has to find an answer. I don't know if they have one, but the defense has its work cut out for them, and that work is stop CMC as a receiver.
I mean, if I was them, my answer would be Antoine Winfield, right? Just park him on Christian all day long. But that does necessitate them running different defensive structures than they've mostly majored in this year. So they would have to fundamentally transform their defense. But if you're going into this game thinking, okay, he is their only top flight healthy threat. They might get a couple guys back in the receiving core this week, but again, they're coming off injury. They're not fully healthy. He's their only top flight healthy threat. If we take him away, then what else do they got? I would say that would be my entire focus as a defense. Like, make Mac Jones or Brock Purdy, whoever happens to be starting this week. We still don't know that as of the time of recording. Whoever is playing quarterback this week, make them play left-handed, without CMC as your queen on the chessboard, and see what you can do with Kendrick Bourne. See what you can do with, again, these guys coming off injury. And if they beat you that way, they beat you that way. But again, the Bucs have a couple young corners that have been playing really well this year. I would trust them with those assignments and just put my best DB on their best weapon. Like, we'll just call CMC a weapon, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. And if they beat us, they beat us. But I would not sit back and play zone coverage. I would not, send all these exotic pressures that they like to do and kind of give space and rally and tackle and do all the normal Bucs defensive stuff. Like, I'm playing these guys tight. I'm trying to make Mac Jones make tight window throws and see if he can do it.
For sure. And when that happens, or if that happens, this game might come down to red zone efficiency, because it's a big deal. Tampa Bay gets touchdowns when they do get down to the red zone more often than the Niners do. Tampa Bay gets a touchdown on 52.6% of the trips to the red zone. San Francisco does it 10% less at 42%. So if you're talking about trading touchdowns for field goals, you could fall behind, and it is about which weapons are healthy. With all that said, I feel like I really shouldn't bet against San Francisco at this point, because I looked at them going into that Rams game. We talked about that game on the preview show, and I was like, nah, they're just down too many guys. There's no way. They don't have enough. They're trotting out a beat up Mac Jones.
I got egg on my face on that one.
I think everybody did. I really don't think anybody thought that Shanahan could do it. And honestly, that's when Shanny thrives. He's like, oh yeah? You don't think I can cobble together with duct tape and straws? Ha! I'll show you. And he makes a dart gun out of it. And it's like, all right, well, sure. So I feel like I can look at everything that's logical. I can look at all the matchups, and I can say, this is what I think. And Shanny's just going to be like, yeah, I'll just knock down the house of cards. Let's go. Because he is a very good coach. And it does feel like when his back's up against the wall and his options are extremely limited, man, he comes out with some crazy game plans that just work.
Yeah, he's NFL MacGyver.
Correct.
Like every week you tune in, it's like, how is he going to get out of this one? And then
That's
he just
right.
magically gets out of it.
Don't give him a paperclip. Don't give him a paperclip.
I also want to give a shout out to Robert Saleh, who has been worth his weight in gold, no pun intended, for this 49ers defense this year. Again, losing Joey Bosa. You got a bunch of young players on the D line. They've sustained injuries beyond Bosa as well. But to have the kind of bend but don't break success that they had against the Rams, like, again, they allowed yardage, they allowed explosive plays, but they made key plays when they absolutely had to. Alfred Collins punching the ball out on the goal line. Like, they didn't stop scratching and clawing and fighting. They did a really good job putting hits onto Stafford, even if he was able to get the ball out super quick a lot of those times. Like, they're just playing their ass off, even though they are undergunned talent-wise post-Bosa injury. Saleh is just getting these guys as ready to play as he possibly can every single week. And he's really demonstrating why he's such a good DC, to MacGyver his way through it from week to week. He's done a tremendous job.
Yeah, and you're seeing the growth among the young players, and when you're talking about Alfred Collins, Mykel Williams, and you're seeing those guys contribute. Again, less heralded linebackers when they've had to come in when they've had injuries. The defensive back core is performing, again, better than it did last year. It was a real letdown under Sorensen, which was a surprise, him being a defensive back himself, that was sort of one of the Achilles heels of that team. It just feels like, the adults are back in charge, and maybe even better than that, right? The adults are back in charge, maybe brings you up to median competency, 15th, 18th in the NFL, and to be playing like they have against some very quality offenses, again, with less pieces on the board, really feels like, okay, this is where coaching's really starting to matter.
I mean, we consistently praise the Seattle defense. We consistently praise the Green Bay defense, other than the one, 40-point tie against Dallas. Minnesota, Saleh's defense is allowing less points per game than Jacksonville, allowing less points per game than Seattle. They're barely behind Minnesota. So to have a defense 5-6 weeks into the year allowing sub 20 points a game with all of their personnel issues and injuries and stuff like that, that's so special. And also, like, we've really seen the value of Fred Warner so far this year too. He is playing out of his gourd, EJ. Him and Devin Lloyd, for me, are the two front runners for Defensive Player of the Year. There's a couple pass rushers that are in it too, but like, as far as value brought to their respective defenses, Devin Lloyd, Fred Warner, that's 1A, 1B for me right now.
Yeah, it takes a while for linebackers to get there, and we saw that with Devin Lloyd. Talked about the coaching changes, and again, we talk about that with the offenses all the time. Oh, this quarterback didn't thrive. He got a new offensive coordinator. Oh, now he looks like a whole different player. Like, Devin Lloyd looks like a whole different player, and the thing that really gets me is he looks like the player he was in college. He was so dynamic in college. His ball skills were so good in college. His timing on the blitz was amazing in college. He was this dynamic, playmaking, forceful middle linebacker. He came to the league and he made some plays, but there were flashes. There was not consistency. He just didn't fit. And like you said, Campanelli comes to Jacksonville, and all of a sudden, he looks like that player he was in college again. And you're like, aha, I told you. But it does take that fit. We talk about fit and structure all the time. The fit is perfect for him right now. So it'll make for a really interesting couple of months after the season in terms of, do you want to stay where you know you can be maximized, or do you want to roll the dice for a bunch of money, go to another place where you're not sure you're going to be used in the same way? It's going to be a fascinating decision for Devin Lloyd.
Also, no income tax in Florida. It's got to count for something.
Oh, it counts for a lot.
I forgot to ask for your pick for the Seahawks-Jags game. So let's do picks for Seahawks-Jags and Niners-Tampa at the same time. For me, I'll pick... so Tampa's the easier one. I'll pick Tampa against the Niners just because, talk about just winning games despite taking on water injury-wise. Like, Tampa just keeps doing it over and over again. So I'll go Tampa. They have better quarterback play right now. and their coaching staff, particularly on offense, is coaching its butt off. And then for Seahawks, Jags, oh man, I think I'll go Jacksonville. The Seahawks are getting Witherspoon back, and they are getting Tank Lawrence back, which they clearly missed them against Tampa. But again, if the Jags just play clean offensively, they're a really, really tough team to beat. And I like to believe if they can do it once against Kansas City, they can do it again. So I'll pick the Jags in this one. And again, I'll go Tampa. I'll go the Florida sweep here.
Oh, the Florida sweep. All right. Well, I'll go with you on Tampa, but I can't wander into the Jacksonville waters quite yet. They do have some problems, and the Seahawks are a very good team on both sides of the ball. Again, everybody worried about the Seahawks offense in the offseason. Seahawks offense right now is humming, folks. Like, it is operating at an extremely high level. The defense is also playing very, very, very well. They haven't had a drop off. They have had a lot of injuries in the secondary. But again, the Jags passing game has been the sort of stuttering part of that offense that hasn't gotten going yet. The run game, Hawks, despite their secondary injuries, have been very solid against the run. So I just feel like, and the Seahawks, everybody's talking about, sort of Pyrrhic victories. Well, we didn't win, but we kind of won. Nah. Mike McDonald wants to win one. That was an L last week. He wants to put a W back on the board. And I think they've got it over the Jags in some key areas right now. Should be a good game. Not going to be a blowout by any stretch, but I'll go Seahawks and Bucks.
Also going to take an opportunity here to put up, again, the pick'em entry once more so you can see exactly which player we chose from this game, which as of recording, we have no idea. We'll find out together, I guess, when this episode goes live. Also, reminder, if you want to tail this entry as we go, or if you think I'm an idiot and you want to fade it, which you probably should because last week I went 1 out of 4. Didn't go well for me. If you want to fade it, either way, you can find that at the link in the description below or at the QR code on the screen. If you deposit $5, you get $50 in bonus credit. Generally speaking, you're going to do a lot better if you just do the opposite of my recommendations, if history is to be believed. All right, next game on the docket, Chiefs-Lions. I want to start off talking not about the Chiefs offense and not about the Chiefs defense. I want to talk about the Chiefs special teams because this team has had some, they had under the radar special teams woes that have now become very over the radar special teams woes, especially if you watch the Monday game. Harrison Butker has been I would say a net negative on kickoffs in the new kickoff structure so far. We've seen some teams have kickers that have really thrived under these new rules. Harrison Butker is not one of them. His last kickoff of the evening that he, let's just say, missed, set the Jags up at their own 40, which is a big chunk of hidden yardage, right? Like, your best outcome for a touchback is at the 20. The worst outcome for a touchback is at the 40. They ended up putting him at the 40 because he missed the kick. He's also had 3 missed field goals this year at the worst possible times. You could argue that Butker is responsible for all 3 of their losses, like directly. And at the same time, they're going up against a special teams unit now in Detroit that is number 1 in the NFL so far as average starting field position after kickoff returns. So like the Lions kickoff return unit is the best in the league so far. So I have, if you're looking at Butker versus this Lions return unit, I have very, very serious concerns about all the hidden yardage that Detroit might be able to accumulate here. And if they get into a kicking duel, or hell, if they just get into a situation where Butker has to drill one from 50 plus, I'm not as confident in that as I used to be a couple of years ago with him. So it's not often that you see a Chiefs team with bad special teams and a shaky defense, but we're back there now, like late 2010s Chiefs. We're back at that point.
Yeah, this is the season so far of Dave Toub's discontent. He does not look happy on the sidelines, and I don't blame him. It has been a struggle, and like many coaches around the league, he gets to work through it, and it's difficult as a special teams coach. You are not working with the top end of the roster. You're working typically with the bottom third of the roster, and they have not found the right combination of guys. And look, your most prominent player on special teams is your kicker. It's the one everybody looks at. It's the one games come down to. And if your kicker's performing well, people will think your special teams in general is performing well. Might not be true, but they'll think it. And same thing. If your kicker's missing kicks, they will not think highly of your special teams unit. And that's sort of led off. But like you said, it's not the only issue. And yeah, Dave looks unsatisfied on the sideline this year, and I don't blame him. When we're talking about not hidden yardage, when we're talking about yardage that's much more under the bright lights of the spotlight, I want to talk about the Lions' run game on offense. And the run game is powering Detroit's return to offensive glory. And I say return because they really only stumbled for a week, and then they vaulted right back to the top of the NFL scoring charts. Yes, this offense is once again on the top of the NFL scoring charts, 34.8 points a game. In terms of yards, the Lions have 2 of the NFL's top 17 running backs. Gibbs is 12th and Montgomery's 17th. In terms of yards per attempt, it's 2 in the top 15. Montgomery's 6th. Gibbs is 15th. Explosive rushes, it's 2 of the top 21. Montgomery's also 5th in yards after contact per attempt. He is a hammer and continues to be so. He had an amazing game as a homecoming going back to Cincinnati last weekend. The result, again, Detroit is scoring more points than anybody else in the NFL, just like last year. And a lot of people are looking at the passing game and Goff, and yes, it's been good, but this has been a we can run you over, and if you can't stop that, I think Campbell is just smart enough to keep doing it, and some NFL coaches aren't. He knows he's got 2 absolutely talented running backs that are very different, but both very effective, and he is not shying away from just handing them the rock and saying, you can get us everything we need. We can get ball control. We can get explosives. We can, again, just churn out first downs, keep the other offense off the field. All of those things are happening, and it's based off Detroit's run game this year.
This was another topic where I was like, all right, I need to do a lot of research on this, and I need to do it really quickly. So I typed a query into Sumer, and I asked it, what is the Chiefs' defensive EPA per play allowed and explosive run rate allowed against the following concepts: outside zone, inside zone, man, power, and pull lead? And it spit it out instantly, which was extremely helpful, so I didn't have to sort through filters and do it all on my own. They are 31st out of 32 run defenses when it comes to EPA per play allowed against outside zone. They are 25th out of 32 when it comes to explosive run rate allowed on outside zone. And guess who runs a lot of outside zone, EJ? Detroit. So that's not exactly a great matchup for them. And then I asked it for the time codes for every single explosive run that they've allowed against outside zone, so that I could go back and watch the film to see what the root cause of their issues against outside zone is. I don't know how long you want this show to be, EJ, but the Chiefs have a spine problem on defense. The spine of this front, Derek Nottie back to the linebackers, is severely compromised. And when I say I got whiplash, watching Devin Lloyd tape and watching Fred Warner tape in prep for this show, and then watching the Chiefs linebackers, like, this is not okay. To have invested this much money in this unit. Like, they just paid Nick Bolton. He looks slow out there. They've invested in Leo Chanel. He's missing, A, he's missing tackles. B, he's missing assignments. Like, his eyes are just constantly drifting on motion. He's not actually, being where he needs to be. Like, he's taking the cheese at every opportunity that he can. Derek Nottie, like, what the hell happened to Derek Nottie, dude? Like, it's one thing if you're going to be, the anchor in the middle, but that doesn't mean you stop moving. Like, it feels like when he's striking into the chest of a center or a guard, like, he's not moving his feet. He's just like, okay, everybody go around me. It's like, they will on outside zone. That's an east-west run concept. They're going to outflank you if you let yourself get reached, and he's not moving. Not to mention, like, the other DTs are getting blown off the ball, whether it was a Menahu. Like, Chris Jones has had some pretty ugly reps in there. Like, the entire core of this front seven, Chanel, Bolton, Nottie, CJ, Drew Tranquil, he's had a couple rough reps here and there, but, like, he's been more consistent than everybody else. But, like, this team is not good at stopping runs that work towards the edges, whether it's pin and pulls, whether it's outside zone. Like, they just look slow to the sideline. And I'm not used to seeing a Steve Spagnuolo defense look outright slow, when trying to track down running backs on the edge. And you got Jahmyr Gibbs coming to town. You have a really athletic offensive line coming to town. This is not a good matchup, EJ.
No, they're trying to play it from depth. They're trying to, rely on guys like Jamari Connor and Cook and everybody to come hammering downhill, and that works some of the time, but it doesn't work a lot of the time against a back like Gibbs. And I'm just going to paint it with a much broader brush, which is it's the 7th worst run defense in the league in terms of yards per attempt allowed, 4.8. Like, there's only 6 worse run defenses in the league against all concepts. Like, I don't even care which one. This is equal opportunity. Got to stop the run. And look, we've said this every year. Kansas City has not been great against the run, but they've been better than this. And it does matter. It's like it doesn't matter to a point. You can be 15th or 18th against the run if you have an elite pass defense, a good pass rush. That gets you off the field. Again, they don't have an elite pass rush right now. They have a good one, but seems like it shows up in big spots and disappears for stretches. Feels like one of those players you scout coming out of college and you're like, I just wish he did more often. And I feel that way about the Chiefs pass rush. And so that's kind of come down a notch. Special teams, as you mentioned, has come down a notch. Run defense has come down several notches. Again, they're in the late 20s now, not the mid to late teens. Doesn't seem like that big a deal, but when you combine it with the other issues, you're seeing them struggle in places where they haven't really had deep struggles in the past few seasons. And it feels like sort of an erosion of that bedrock for the Chiefs where they can't count on that. We're like, oh, we need a stop. Come on, it's the Spags defense. We can get a stop. Can you?
I also thought it was rich that Chris Jones after the game, this is kind of a side note, he was talking about the Trevor fall down, get back up, run for a score at the end. And he's like, yeah, we just got to finish the play on those. I'm like, dude, you were standing
That's rich.
there.
Yeah. That's rich.
Like, yeah, you got to finish the play, Chris. Good observation. Would have been great to have that in the moment.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have you do that, not say that. And it is different, but there's some other trends in this one that, again, watching the game against the Jaguars last night, I was like, there's a thing here. And I know we've talked about it. Everybody's talked about it, like favorable penalties for Kansas City. This is not that segment. I'm not talking about that. This is a trend because last night, the game was called in a certain way, not for Kansas City, not for the Jaguars, for both teams, which is the way it should be when you're calling penalties as a crew. You should pretty much set a standard in terms of if you're talking about coverage, hey, are we going to allow you guys to play? Are we going to swallow the whistles? Are we going to allow a lot of contact? And that goes both ways. By the end of the first quarter, you should both know that and play accordingly. If you go above that, sure, we'll call it, but you're going to get away with some stuff. Both sides were getting away with some stuff in coverage, and it was pretty heavy-handed. There was a lot of contact on both sides. I'm not saying this favored one side or another, but moving into this game, it's a different crew. And if that crew calls this game tight down the field, I am deeply worried about all the yards that the Lions are going to get in accepted penalties, because you could have called that game last night very differently. You could have called that game a lot tighter. And if the refs did, again, for both sides, this isn't a pro or anti-Chiefs segment. This is their defensive backs, and under Spagnuolo, they've been physical, right? That's not new. But they were really physical last night. They were early. Again, so the Jaguars figured it out, and so were they. If this crew comes in and calls it tight, Kansas City's defensive backs are going to have a rude awakening, and it's just going to be a shower of flags, and that's advantage Lions. So you have to sort of watch that early on and see how the crew's calling it, and then decide where that's going to sort of come down. And the other one is, how does Detroit rush Mahomes? And this got me thinking about the conversation we had about Lamar a couple of weeks ago, with including Kansas City, teams that had played him effectively with a 3-man rush, managing lanes, making him step up. Now, Mahomes isn't the same quarterback. He will step up for sure, and take advantage of those running lanes, but he also rolls out and rolls to the edge and can usually beat defenders to the edge. So you can't use sort of cookie cutter the same, but you have to have a plan for that, because right now Mahomes leads this team in rushing through 5 games, 190 yards, 6.8 per. That's not nothing. That is all players on this team. He has the most rushing yards and the highest average. He's also tied for the lead, having created 14 first downs just with his legs. It is a significant portion of their game plan. You don't have to like it or hate it. It is just, you better have a plan for it coming in as the DC for the Lions and saying, what are we going to do about keeping Mahomes from just keeping these drives going with his legs, because he's doing it early and often and just with great frequency so far with the Chiefs. It doesn't look like they have any problem with it right now. He's not taking a ton of hits, so they're just going, go for it, man. And he's going for it. And if you don't stop that, it's going to be tough to get the Chiefs off the field.
They really just need to find a way to run the ball that doesn't involve Pat. Right, like you mentioned that he led them in rushing yards again, and it was like 150 something rushing, which on the surface is okay. That's pretty good. Like we can live with $150 rushing.
Sure.
When 60 of it is your quarterback, and then 33 of it is one run from Kareem Hunt, you're talking about like over half your rushing yards comes from either your quarterback or one run from your running back, and that's like 80% of the total yards for the game your running back got, your actual running back. Like, they need to find some way to run the ball. I'm not saying they have to do it all the time, because it's Andy Reid. He's never going to run the ball all the time. But they at least need to take some of these hits off of Mahomes. Like, he cannot last the entire year, taking hits, just normal quarterback life in the pocket. Pass rushers are going to hit you. But to then compound that with he's getting 7, 8, 9, 10 carries in a game. Most of them are scrambles because he absolutely has to. And, he might take a couple licks that way. Like, you can't make him do that for 17 games. And then you have to go through an entire playoff slate too, because they're not going to get the bye. Like, they're going to have to play the maximum number of playoff games, possibly even some of those on the road. You can't ask him to take that much punishment. They have to find a way to run the ball, if for no other reason than that. The difficulty is I don't think they have any running backs that they trust to do that right now, because Pacheco's never been the same since his injury. Kareem Hunt is, again, he is what he is at this point. Like, the fact that he got a 33-yard run is a miracle to me. Like, he's not an explosive player anymore. And, money-wise, like, I don't know financially what they could trade for at this point. Like, I'm just going to keep bringing up Alvin Kamara repeatedly, but I don't even know if they could afford it. But they got to find something here. And honestly, my biggest worry for them on the RB trade market is that now that Omarion Hampton went on IR, they're going to have to compete with the Chargers on the running back trade market, because Najee's also out, right? So, like, the Chargers might trade for a running back. They got more to offer to somebody who is trading for a running back, or who is trading their running back. So they might not even get the one they want if they want to trade for a running back. So I don't know what the quick fix is here, if there even is one, but they have to find a way to run the ball, or it could get pretty dire here for Mahomes.
Especially when the weather turns and it's just tougher to run a passing game, cold hands, high winds. They do play outdoors. You just can't count on that screen game as being the run game replacement the way that Andy Reid always does. You need to be able to grind out some yards late in the season, and they can't grind out yards early in the season. And again, they're not waiting to get somebody back from injury or anything else. It's just not really working right now. And that's a tough thing to sort of crank up as you get to the playoffs, outside of, again, getting a high-level guard back or getting a top-flight running back healthy again. And they don't really have that, so they're going to have to figure it out, and I'm with you. I don't know what that answer is, but it's going to get rougher as the season goes on.
Do you have a pick for this game?
Yeah, I do hate picking against the I'm going to go Lions.
Against the Lions, so
I know. I'm going to go Lions because, again, I think they're more complete right now. And again, the NFL's been spitting in my face for several weeks now when I've made picks like that. I think the Lions have showed that they're incredibly solid. Again, I had my mea culpa a couple of weeks ago about, hey, I thought coordinators losing both of them would be a bigger deal. It hasn't been. They are clicking right along. Like their pass rush isn't great, but their defense is pretty solid and their offense looks amazing. So it's going to be a good game for sure. Again, I don't see the Chiefs getting blown out because it just doesn't really happen. Not in the Mahomes era. And, but I think when it comes down to it, I think the Lions can put the squeeze on them. I think they not only have the talent to do that, but they also have that mentality, which is very, hate to say it, Chiefs like to just sort of turn the screws at the end of the game and go, we're going to put a lot of pressure on you and see if you make a mistake, and we're going to be there to capitalize if you do. To me, that feels very Chiefs like, and the Lions have gotten pretty good at that in the last couple of years.
I'll go Lions on my end too. I see what this offense is now compared to week 1 against Green Bay, and it's like two different teams. Like, and again, they had a new interior trio. They were breaking in some young guys, new OC, Aiden's coming off injury, new DC as well. Like, there was a lot of moving parts there. I also think they were on the road that week too. So it's just seeing what they are now a month after that game. It's night and day. Like, it just feels like the Lions are the Lions and nothing has changed. So until further notice, I'm going to pick them. I mean, even if the Chiefs didn't have the issues that we laid out, I still probably would have picked the Lions anyway, because who's stopping that at this point? I don't know if anybody can. So Detroit for me as well. Last game on the docket, keeping it in the NFC North. Bears Commanders, the rematch between Caleb and Jaden for 2024 quarterback class supremacy. Although, who at this point?
I was going to say, wait a minute.
could be Drake May. I don't know. We'll see.
We're forgetting a guy. Yeah.
This is a very, 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 very different game than the one from last year, right? For so many reasons. Like, I don't even think that we have enough time to list them all.
We don't.
But it's to the point where I don't think that there is anything we can look back on from that game, like literally anything at all that translates to this one. Like, it's two completely different teams. Like, even the Commanders are very different than they were last year. They have different strengths. They have different weaknesses. There's some players that are still going to be on the field that were there last year. But other than that, I can't think of a quote unquote rematch that is as this much of a blank slate as this one from year to year.
Yeah, if you go back and compare to a game that really did turn the fortunes more for the Bears than it did for the Commanders fortunes kind of turned a few weeks later as they sort of continued to ascend, especially Jalen. But really, the buck stopped right there for the Bears. Like, the Bears season broke. We didn't know it at the time. We thought it might. And it did. And when you look back, you can point to that exact moment as saying, oh, no, it's Jover. Like, that's nobody's coming out of that. And that's a hindsight thing. Again, different coaching staff, different, really different feel in Chicago in general. And also for the Commanders, they're not coming into this as young upstarts with a rookie quarterback. They feel like a much more veteran team, even though it's only 12 months later. So, the biggest thing for the Bears might be addition by subtraction. Eberflus is out. Dennis Allen is in on defense. And speaking of additions by addition, Kyler Gordon is back along with TJ Edwards. Those are both going to be big additions. Kyler especially. They have missed his multi-role ability, his playmaking, both against the run and the pass. He is one of those agent of chaos players that has proven to be elite when he's healthy and on the field in all phases of the defense. And it really allows the defense a lot more flexibility. They can play nickel against pretty much anything because Kyler can fit the run very, very well. They have missed that ability, and it's also had that sort of domino effect of pushing other guys into that role and out of their better positions. And this is just kind of going to be a reset. TJ is very good against the run. Both of those things are going to help, and they must clean up the run defense. Kyler and TJ coming back will help, but they can't do it all. This is currently the worst in the NFL, allowing 6.1 per rush. They got to get it cleaned up. If they can't do better than that, Cliff is just going to bludgeon them with the run. Like, he's smart enough to just keep jamming it down that defense's throat and saying, hey, deal with it. And if you can't, we're going to win the game that way. Cliff's offense is the number one rushing team in the NFL. So
I was about to say, it's like, this is not the week to have a bad run defense each.
Right. And you were talking about, good on good and bad on bad. This unfortunately is bad on great. And it definitely leans in favor of the Commanders that way. But Bears should be better. Again, I don't expect them to turn around a 180, but they should be better. And so that feels very, very different, not only from last year, but also even from last week for the Bears defense. And then we'll talk about the Commanders, both their defense and their offense, but I want to let you get your licks in on this one.
Yeah, Washington has the third highest explosive run rate in the NFL so far this year. They average 4.5 explosives on the ground per game, which, those of you at home might not think that's a lot. That's a shitload of explosive runs every single week. There might only be 4 or 5 teams in the entire league that hit that rate. I don't even know if the Bears have had 5 explosive runs all year, EJ. Like that's a monster number. And he does it in such creative, inventive ways. Like watching how Cliff has designed this run game has just been a joy. He uses a lot of jumbo packages. Like they have 37 runs out of 6 offensive linemen, formations, throwing an extra jumbo tackle out there. That is most in the NFL. They had 13 against the Chargers from jumbo sets last week. So again, play nickel at your own peril, EJ, against this team. Like, I'm sure that they put that on tape. Like, we dare you to put a nickel on the field. We're just going to run it down your throat with an extra offensive tackle. At the same time, they use motion really well. They sprung a touchdown at a FIB last week, which I sent you that clip, and I was like, oh my God, this is nasty. Like, they forced Jesse Minter. Jesse Minter was a great DC, by the way, to push all of his bodies into the boundary because that's where all the offensive threats were. And then they pulled the guard and the center out to the field side. The play side edge took on the first puller, and he's like, oh, cool. I just have to sit here and hold my spot. Everything's going to go inside me. And then the other puller came around behind him and was like, all right, see ya, buddy. And then the running back just kind of followed that escort out to the edge. There was nobody there. It was FIB. Like, everybody else was over to the boundary. So it's just super, super creative runs, out of a whole bunch of different personnel groupings, using a whole bunch of really funky motions. Like they popped an explosive off an escort motion a couple weeks ago too. That was just a thing of beauty. I love this run game. I really, really do. And, Cliff made his name as an air raid coach. We're going to throw the ball all over the yard. But like when he is really at his best, it's when he's getting creative on the ground. And this team has been really creative on the ground. Unfortunately, where they have not been so good, even in the starts that Jaden has been the starter, they have not been able to stretch the field that much. You could say, okay, a lot of that is due to injuries, including to Jaden himself. They're getting Cosme back, they're getting McLaurin back, and they're getting Noah Brown back this week. On paper, they're finally going to be able to stretch the field again and actually have a deep passing game, which they haven't so far this year. But at the same time, if you look back at last season, that was a criticism we had in the last 6-7 games of last year too, which was they didn't really stretch the field at all. And even when they tried, they weren't that good at it, even with Terry on the field last year. So I would love to see them, be more consistent at that, because until they are consistent at that, it's just going to be, again, how much hay can we make running the ball and, getting by with the screen game. And I guess Jaden just working his magic and quick game over and over again. But like, they got to find a way to get chunks in other ways than just, our running backs breaking 2 tackles and getting 30 yards here. They got to be a little bit more balanced there.
Let me clear my throat. I'm going to stir up a little interdivisional rivalry here. Commanders' offense feels like they caught a little bit of the Eagles' disease here. Deep passing has not been a strength for them, although it really hasn't hurt them either, and we'll talk about that. But Jaden, under 10 air yards, 68.9% completion percentage. Over 10 air yards, 43.2% completion percentage. That's a 25% drop. That puts him 22nd out of 34 qualifying quarterbacks this year, but it's roughly the league average. The league average is about a 26.5% drop. So he's right there, even though he's down at 22. He's pretty much toeing the line. Interestingly, it's almost exactly the same percentage of drop he had last year, except he was completing both types of passes last year at a higher rate. So both numbers were higher. This year, it's a 25% drop. Last year, it was 24.8, but it was from 76.8 to 52. This year, it's from 68 to 43. So he was just doing better at both, but the percentage of short to long, that drop was the same, which to me is fascinating. And when I say a little bit of the Eagles' disease, Hurts is worse. That's why I said a little bit. He's 43%, which is the largest drop in the league between under 10 air yards and over. Second rabbit hole of the week. Drake May has the smallest difference this season. You want to guess what it is?
It's got to be less than 20. Like, he's been nails.
7.
Oh my God.
7.4% difference when he's under 10 yards or over 10 air yards. Unreal. Now, I did say at the top of this little rant that it hasn't really hurt the Commanders either, and Jaden's been good with ball placement. 0 interceptions on the deeper attempts. So while they haven't necessarily benefited even as much as they did last year, they haven't turned the ball over either. I'm with you. I want them to be able to turn that switch up to the positive side and get a little bit more out of it, a little bit more often, maybe like they did down the stretch last year. But so far, at least, he hasn't veered over into the negative of, I'm not completing him at a higher rate. It's lower this year and I'm throwing interceptions. That's the kind of thing that can really throw an offense into turmoil.
We haven't really touched on Caleb in this preview, and I'm going to bring it up, but not necessarily in a, this is what I expect to happen. More so, this is just what I hope to happen. His strength so far this year has been sack avoidance. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL as far as mitigating pressure to sack ratio. Ironically, he's been the opposite of Drake in that regard. Like, Drake's been deadly accurate. He's been very productive down the field as a thrower. He's taken a lot of bad sacks, whereas Caleb, not been deadly accurate, has been really good at not taking sacks. So I would love to see him just take the good parts of what's in Drake's game right now and just be a more accurate passer, especially down the field, while also keeping that sack mitigation. If you combine those two things, Wonder Twin powers activate, you have probably a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. The only thing that is keeping Caleb from being top 10 right now is just consistency down the field. And I don't know why he was missing high, especially in the first, 3 weeks. I don't know why he was missing high. I just know that he was missing high. If he can just dial in his ball placement while keeping everything else that's been great, because he truly overall has been good, if he can just be more consistent accuracy-wise, he is going to be exceptional. He's going to be the best Bears quarterback I've ever seen. Not that that's a high bar to clear. But until that happens, you're going to end up with long stretches in every single game where it's like, God, he's going to want that one back. And if you compound too many of those in a row, that's how you lose very winnable games. And I really don't think he can afford to do that in this one because, again, Washington's going to run the shit out of the ball, and they're not going to give him that many opportunities to, quote unquote, make up for a bad throw. Like, he has to do what Trevor did this week and not miss makeable throws. Like, he cannot put himself behind the sticks by missing the throws that are there. You only get so many, quote unquote, makeable ones every single week. You have to nail those opportunities. Until he does that, it's going to be frustrating, quite frankly.
For sure. And it's difficult because of where he was chosen and the sort of anointment that happened before he ever arrived in Chicago. I saw a stat last week or a couple of weeks ago that he has the best ever touchdown to interception ratio for a number 1 overall pick. Period.
What?
Yes. This is the
Even
difference.
Over Burrow? That's crazy.
This is a difference in perception where people look at his ability and they look at these throws that he makes and they go, oh man, if he could just do that all the time. The answer is no, he can do that and almost nobody else in the league can do that. There's 5 other guys that could have made that throw in the league. So he can already do that. He's already better than every other number one overall pick. So he's setting a floor, but it's this hunger for
not better in that one category. Yeah.
Better in that relationship. That is a very solid start. Like, he is good, to your point. He is good right now. And when people see him do the amazing, whether it's the sack avoidance, which has been miraculous at points this year, or some of those throws, that touchdown to Rome on the inbreaker a couple of weeks ago, like, that was gorgeous. Absolute rope, undefendable throw. There's no defense for that. He put it right out in front of him. It was a rope. No defender's going to react to that. That is a perfect throw. There's no defense for it. That's a touchdown. So people see him do that and they go, man, if he could just do that every time. And the answer is no quarterback does that every time. I don't care which one you're talking about. So they see the high highs and they just
apparently
go.
Drake May does. I don't know, man.
Last month he has been for sure. But they see that and then they just want more. They want to see that all the time. They forget that he is already playing at a very good, solid level that is better than, as you said, a lot of quarterbacks who've played in Chicago before him, but they see that he's got even more potential than that, and they just want to see that more often. I'm guilty of it too, but people forget that, he's good and he hasn't hit that is a positive, not a negative, right? He's already here and he can do that. He can do more. Cool. That's a plus, not a, well, he hasn't done a lot, but he's hit a couple of these and it has to balance. It skews the perception, I think, in a way. And it's going to in this game as well, because look, these are all comparison games. Anytime any one of these guys from the class play each other, right? Jaden plays Caleb, or Jaden plays May, or May plays Caleb, or whatever. Everybody goes, JJ, same thing. Everybody's like, oh, who's the best one? Penix is in there too. Like, anytime any of them play each other, it's like, well, who won? Who was smart? Who got duped, right? And so you can't avoid that. It's a very natural part of the game. But I think with Caleb, there's this weird, like, because he doesn't do the exceptional thing all the time, people go, he's failing. And it's like, no, he's been really pretty good at a level. Is he a top 10 quarterback? No, he's absolutely not a top 10 quarterback. Does he have room to improve? Yes. That should be exciting, not a bummer, because he's already at a good level.
Do you have a pick for this game before we get out of here?
I'm going to go Bears. I like the defensive reinforcements. I do think it's going to be a big deal. Caleb has clicked a little bit more with Ben. They seem to be vibing both on the sidelines and in the way they're correcting things. That was a little rough for the first couple of weeks. Again, Ben said he was going to coach Caleb super hard. And again, that's going to create some of those moments, but they seem to be, again, sort of accelerating that curve. And you're seeing more of those plays, like that throw to Rome that was just dialed, and they're hitting more of those. And it feels like they're kind of getting into stride on offense. If the defense can just stop the run and the offensive line can be decent, and they have been decent this year. This is a crazy stat. And again, a lot of it's attributable to Caleb, but they've only allowed 1.8 sacks per game this year. That's the 11th best or fewest in the league. That's not a place we've had Chicago offensive line stats in the last few years. So if they can sort of hold that up, Washington's pass rush has been pretty good, but I'm going to go Bears in this one because I think they take the bye week, get some of those fixes in, get some reinforcements back. It's really early for a bye week, but I think it's going to serve them.
As much as I want to say Bears, I'm going to say Commanders just because I hate this run defense matchup versus the Commanders rushing offense that much. Like I hate this matchup so much that Caleb can't score if he's not on the field.
True.
Right. So I'll go Commanders narrowly. Jesus, Brett, sound it out. It's been a rough day for me. But I do think it's going to be a close game. I don't know what the line is. I can't imagine it's more than like 3.5, something like that. But either way, I'll go Commies.
Bizarro universe. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt ends up as a Bear. What's your pick?
Ooh. But I love Bill. That's my weak point. That's not fair.
We both loved him, and he would look really good in Navy and Orange right now. They would have a different rushing attack altogether if he was there. So it's rare that one player, especially a rookie, swapping sides would make a difference. That's absolutely one of those cases.
And with that, we want to thank you for watching and listening, however you happen to be watching and listening. Reminder, we have a bonus episode that goes live tomorrow, the day after the public one, every single week. We have a bonus Patreon preview with 3 additional games. So if you're a patron, make sure to keep an eye out for that. And if you are not a patron, go become one, and you get access to bonus content, and you get to vote for Shot of the Week as well. I also want to thank Underdog for sponsoring not just this show, but every single show this season. Again, full pick'em on the screen right now. Either you can tail it or fade it, or just make up one of your own. Honestly, it's probably more successful strategy. You can do that at the link in the description below or at the QR code on the screen. Again, promo code BOOTLEG, and plus a $5 deposit, you get $50 in bonus credits. So thank you once again to Underdog. Thank you to Sumer. Thank you to our patrons, our executive producers on Patreon, Fitzy, Connor, Liam, Mike, Jack, Major, Owen, Patrick, Spencer, on Donner, on Blitzen, on all of them. We thank you guys there once again. We'll be back next Tuesday, recapping all these Week 6 games so we can talk about everything that we probably got wrong. We'll see you then.